Hello, and thank you for joining me on this gentle journey. Tonight, we move through the dense, shadowed forests of Madagascar, where the fossa moves silently between trees and undergrowth. In this warm, humid jungle, light filters softly through leaves, and every sound feels distant and muted. The fossa flows through this hidden world with quiet precision, a solitary presence shaped by patience and instinct. Let your mind drift into this calm forest atmosphere where everything moves softly and unseen. If you enjoy this relaxing moment, please consider liking, subscribing, or sharing your thoughts below. But for now, simply breathe and relax. Let's begin. Far from continental Africa, separated by roughly 400 kilometers of open ocean, Madagascar stands as one of the most biologically distinct landmasses on Earth. Its long isolation, stretching back around 88 million years after breaking away from ancient Gondwana, allowed life here to evolve along an independent trajectory. Over time, this separation produced ecosystems that resemble no other place, shaped not by migration from elsewhere, but by internal adaptation and evolutionary experimentation. Rainfall patterns and geological diversity divide the island into sharply contrasting habitats. On the eastern edge, moist air from the Indian Ocean feeds dense rainforests, where towering trees form layered canopies, filtering sunlight into fragmented beams that shift across the forest floor. Moving westward, conditions gradually transition into dry, deciduous forests, where trees shed leaves seasonally to conserve moisture during extended dry periods. In the far south, spiny thickets dominate, filled with drought-resistant plants adapted to harsh, arid conditions and unpredictable rainfall. Within these isolated environments, ecological roles often differ from those found on mainland continents. In the absence of large terrestrial carnivores like big cats or wild canids, evolutionary pressure opened niches for alternative predators to emerge. Species that might have remained mid-level hunters elsewhere were given the opportunity to occupy higher trophic positions. This restructuring of ecological hierarchy is one of the defining features of Madagascar's wildlife systems. It is within this evolutionary context that the fossa emerged as one of the island's most significant predators. Neither fully resembling a cat nor aligning perfectly with any familiar carnivore lineage, it developed traits shaped specifically by Madagascar's fragmented and vertical forests. Its presence reflects a long history of adaptation to isolated competition, where survival depended on flexibility rather than specialization in a single direction. The forests themselves act as living archives of evolutionary experimentation. Lemurs diversified into dozens of species, each occupying different ecological roles, from ground foragers to canopy dwellers. Birds, reptiles, and insects followed similarly unique evolutionary paths, filling ecological spaces left open by the absence of continental competitors. In this environment, predator and prey relationships evolved without external influence, creating tightly interwoven systems shaped entirely within the island's boundaries. Over millions of years, Madagascar became less like a fragment of a larger world and more like an independent biological laboratory. Every forest layer, from root systems hidden beneath soil to the highest branches exposed to wind and light, participates in a complex ecological network defined by adaptation, limitation, and opportunity. Within this setting, the conditions were established for a predator like the fossa to not only survive, but to rise into a dominant ecological role, navigating forests shaped by isolation and diversity in equal measure. Emerging from the dense forests of Madagascar, the fossa presents one of the most unusual carnivorous mammals on the island, combining traits that make it appear familiar at first glance, yet distinctly separate from any single modern group. Its body structure often leads to comparisons with cats, weasels, and mongooses. Yet its true evolutionary lineage places it within the Eupleridae family, a group of carnivores endemic to Madagascar that evolved from a shared ancestor likely related to mongooses that reached the island millions of years ago. Slender yet muscular, the fossa's form is built for continuous movement through layered terrain. Its elongated torso allows flexibility when navigating narrow branches or twisting through tangled understory vegetation. Strong limbs support both climbing and ground travel, giving it the ability to transition seamlessly between arboreal and terrestrial environments. This dual capability is essential in a forest system where prey species may occupy any vertical level of the habitat. Retractable or partially retractable claws provide grip on bark surfaces, enabling controlled ascent and descent across tree trunks. Unlike many carnivores that specialize in either ground pursuit or tree-based ambush, the fossa maintains a balanced design that allows it to exploit both domains. This versatility expands its hunting range significantly, giving it access to prey that move through canopy pathways, as well as those traveling along forest floors. Its tail, nearly as long as its body, plays a critical role in maintaining balance during rapid movement. When leaping between branches or shifting direction mid-climb, this extended structure acts as a stabilizing counterweight, reducing the risk of falls and improving spatial control. Combined with flexible joints and highly coordinated limb placement, the fossa demonstrates an unusual level of agility among terrestrial carnivores of similar size. Sensory adaptation also contributes to its effectiveness as a predator. Acute vision supports movement through dim forest interiors, where light is often fragmented by dense vegetation. Hearing and olfactory senses assist in locating prey hidden within foliage or moving at a distance. This multi-sensory integration allows it to interpret complex forest environments with high accuracy, even when direct sight lines are obstructed. Behaviorally, the fossa is an active hunter rather than a passive ambush predator. It is capable of sustained pursuit, adjusting speed and trajectory in response to prey movement. This hunting style is particularly effective in Madagascar's forests, where lemurs and other arboreal animals rely on speed, agility, and elevation shifts to evade capture. The fossa's ability to match these movements across multiple layers of the forest gives it a distinct advantage. Despite its adaptability, the fossa remains relatively light in body mass compared to large continental predators. This weight profile enhances its climbing ability and reduces strain during repeated leaps. It also enables rapid directional changes, which are essential when navigating complex branch networks or chasing prey through unstable terrain. Its evolutionary design reflects the unique pressures of Madagascar's ecosystems, where ecological niches had to be filled without the influence of mainland carnivores. Over time, natural selection shaped a predator capable of functioning in multiple ecological roles, rather than specializing in a single hunting strategy. Within forest systems, the fossa occupies a position of ecological flexibility, moving between canopy and ground with equal proficiency. This adaptability defines its role as a dominant predator, capable of interacting with a wide range of species across different habitat layers. In the layered complexity of Madagascar's forests, this carnivore stands as a product of isolation and opportunity, shaped by environments that reward versatility, spatial awareness, and continuous adaptation. High within the layered canopy of Madagascar's forests, movement among branches creates a constant exchange of risk and survival, where visibility is fragmented and escape routes extend in every direction. Within this vertical world, lemurs occupy a wide range of ecological roles, from small nocturnal insectivores to larger fruit-eating primates that travel in social groups. Their adaptation to arboreal life makes them agile and alert, capable of rapid leaps between trees and coordinated responses to perceived threats. Among the few predators capable of consistently matching this arboreal lifestyle is the fossa. Unlike ground-bound hunters that rely on linear pursuit, it engages with prey across multiple vertical levels of the forest. Its movement is not restricted to the forest floor, allowing it to follow lemurs into canopy pathways where escape often seems most secure. Climbing ability plays a central role in this interaction. The fossa can ascend vertical trunks with speed and stability, using its claws and flexible limbs to maintain grip on uneven bark surfaces. Once within the canopy, it transitions smoothly between branches, adjusting balance through coordinated body positioning and tail movement. This control allows it to navigate unstable or narrow pathways that would challenge many other mammals of similar size. Lemurs, in response to predation pressure, have evolved behavioral strategies that emphasize vigilance and group coordination. Many species rely on early detection of movement, using vocal calls and visual signals to alert others within their group. Some species travel in larger social units, increasing collective awareness of potential danger. Despite these defenses, the complexity of forest structure creates moments where visibility is limited and escape routes intersect with predator pathways. The fossa's hunting approach in these environments is characterized by active pursuit rather than static ambush. It tracks movement through branches, adjusting speed and direction in response to rapid changes in prey position. This requires not only physical agility, but also high spatial awareness, as the forest canopy presents a three-dimensional network of obstacles, gaps, and shifting supports. Leaping ability enhances its effectiveness in these pursuits. The fossa can bridge gaps between branches with controlled jumps, using momentum and limb coordination to land with precision on unstable surfaces. This capacity allows it to maintain pressure on prey, even when lemurs attempt to increase distance through rapid arboreal movement. Communication among lemurs often includes alarm calls that vary depending on the type of threat detected. These vocalizations can influence group behavior, prompting rapid dispersal or collective movement toward denser vegetation. However, dense foliage and layered branches can reduce the effectiveness of these signals, especially when visibility is already compromised by environmental structure. The interaction between predator and prey in this system reflects a continuous cycle of adaptation. As lemurs refine their escape strategies, the fossa adjusts its pursuit techniques, refining timing, trajectory, and positioning within the canopy. This ongoing dynamic shapes behavioral traits on both sides, reinforcing agility, awareness, and responsiveness as essential survival characteristics. Energy expenditure is a critical factor during arboreal pursuit. Extended chases through complex terrain require careful balance between speed and endurance. The fossa must decide when to continue pursuit and when to reposition, ensuring that its energy use remains aligned with the probability of successful capture. Within Madagascar's forests, this predator-prey relationship defines much of the ecological interaction occurring above ground level. It is not a static hierarchy, but a constantly shifting engagement shaped by movement, perception, and spatial complexity. Through this interaction, the fossa establishes itself as a dominant arboreal hunter, capable of navigating and exploiting the same vertical spaces that lemurs depend on for survival, creating one of the most intricate predator-prey relationships within Madagascar's isolated ecosystems. Across the vast forests of Madagascar, the fossa maintains a lifestyle defined by separation, with individuals occupying large territories that rarely overlap except under specific conditions such as reproduction. This spatial distribution is shaped by both ecological necessity and resource availability, as prey density varies significantly across forest regions and vertical layers of habitat. Territorial range in this species can extend over several square kilometers, depending on habitat quality and prey abundance. Within these areas, the fossa moves continuously, surveying, hunting, and marking boundaries in a way that reinforces its exclusive access to resources. Scent marking plays a central role in this system, with chemical signals deposited along trails, trees, and key landscape features communicating presence to other individuals. Chemical communication reduces the need for direct confrontation. Rather than engaging in frequent physical disputes, individuals interpret scent marks to assess occupancy and avoid unnecessary conflict. This reduces injury risk while maintaining clear spatial separation between adults, an important factor in environments where each individual must secure sufficient prey to sustain itself. Encounters between adult fossas are relatively rare outside of mating periods. When they do occur, interactions are typically brief and involve avoidance behavior rather than prolonged aggression. This limited social interaction reinforces a largely independent existence, where survival depends entirely on individual skill in hunting and navigation. Resource distribution across Madagascar's forests is uneven, influenced by habitat type, elevation, and human impact in some regions. In areas where prey is more concentrated, territories may be smaller, while in less productive zones, individuals must expand their range to meet energetic needs. This flexibility allows the species to persist across diverse forest types, from humid eastern rainforests to drier western woodlands. Daily activity patterns are shaped by both prey behavior and environmental conditions. The fossa is primarily active during periods when prey species are most likely to be moving or foraging, adjusting its movement through the forest accordingly. This synchronization increases hunting efficiency while reducing unnecessary travel. Independence extends beyond territorial behavior into all aspects of survival. Each individual is responsible for locating food, avoiding threats, and maintaining its position within the forest hierarchy. There is no cooperative hunting structure, no shared provisioning, and no long-term group association. This solitary framework increases the importance of adaptability and environmental awareness. Navigation through dense forest terrain requires strong spatial memory and familiarity with complex pathways. Repeated movement through established routes allows individuals to refine knowledge of resource locations, resting sites, and hunting zones. Over time, this creates a mental map of the territory that supports efficient travel and reduces energy expenditure. Reproductive interactions briefly interrupt this solitary structure. During mating periods, communication between individuals increases, often through vocalization and scent-based signaling. However, these interactions remain temporary, and separation resumes shortly after mating events conclude. Survival in this system is closely linked to the ability to balance movement with energy conservation. Traveling across large territories demands significant expenditure, but it is necessary to maintain access to sufficient prey populations. This trade-off defines much of the Fossa's ecological strategy, where efficiency in movement is as important as success in hunting. Within Madagascar's fragmented landscapes, this solitary lifestyle reduces competition between adults while maximizing use of available resources. It ensures that individuals can occupy overlapping habitats without constant conflict, provided territorial boundaries are respected and maintained. Through this independent existence, the Fossa demonstrates a survival strategy built on autonomy, spatial awareness, and careful regulation of energy use across large and variable forest environments. Within Madagascar's forest systems, the Fossa occupies the highest terrestrial predatory position in many regions, functioning as a key regulator of mid-sized vertebrate populations. Its influence is most evident in interactions with lemurs, which form a significant portion of its diet across many habitats. Through repeated predation events, it helps shape population density, movement patterns, and group behavior among these primates. Predator presence alters how prey species use space. Lemurs adjust travel routes, feeding times, and canopy height in response to predation risk. In areas where fossas are more active, lemur groups may increase vigilance and modify spacing between individuals during movement. These behavioral shifts reduce vulnerability, but also influence how energy is allocated across daily activities. Beyond primates, the fossa also preys on birds, reptiles, and small mammals, contributing to a broader regulatory role within forest food webs. By interacting with multiple trophic levels, it helps maintain balance between species that might otherwise experience unchecked population growth. This multi-prey diet reinforces its position as a flexible apex predator rather than a specialist restricted to a single food source. Ecological impact extends indirectly into vegetation dynamics. Through control of herbivorous and frugivorous species, such as lemurs, the fossa influences patterns of seed dispersal and plant regeneration. Changes in prey distribution can alter which plant species dominate certain forest areas over time, linking predator activity to long-term forest structure. Forest integrity is essential for sustaining this ecological role. Continuous canopy cover supports movement and hunting efficiency, while fragmented habitats reduce access to prey and disrupt territorial ranges. When forest corridors are broken into isolated patches, predator-prey interactions become less stable, and local population dynamics shift unpredictably. Human activity has introduced additional pressure into this system. Agricultural expansion and logging reduce forest continuity, forcing fossas into smaller or more fragmented territories. This can increase overlap between individuals and alter traditional movement routes, potentially changing hunting success rates and prey availability. Despite these challenges, The fossa demonstrates ecological flexibility in how it responds to changing environments. It can adjust territory size, shift hunting zones, and exploit different habitat types depending on local conditions. This adaptability helps maintain its presence across varied forest regions, from humid eastern rainforests to more open western landscapes. Its role as apex predator does not rely on large body size alone, but on behavioral versatility and ecological integration. By operating across both canopy and ground levels, it connects multiple layers of the ecosystem, influencing species interactions in ways that extend beyond direct predation events. Energy transfer within the ecosystem is partly shaped by its hunting efficiency. Successful captures convert dispersed biological energy into concentrated intake at a higher trophic level, reinforcing its position at the top of the terrestrial food chain. This energy flow contributes to the overall structure of the forest ecosystem, linking predator activity to broader ecological stability. Population regulation of prey species helps prevent overconsumption of vegetation and supports balanced regeneration cycles. Without consistent predation pressure, certain herbivorous species could increase beyond sustainable levels, potentially altering forest composition. In this way, the fossa indirectly contributes to maintaining habitat diversity. Across Madagascar's forests, its ecological influence is subtle but continuous, operating through repeated interactions rather than dramatic environmental shifts. Each predation event contributes incrementally to shaping population dynamics and species distribution patterns. Within this framework, the fossa functions as both participant and regulator, embedded in a system where ecological balance emerges from long-term interactions between predator, prey, and habitat structure. Between dense trunks and interwoven branches of Madagascar's forests, sound behaves like a carrier of information, revealing position, movement, and intent to any organism capable of interpreting it. In this environment, the fossa has developed a locomotion style that minimizes acoustic disturbance, allowing it to move through complex terrain with reduced detection by both prey and potential competitors. Foot placement plays a critical role in this form of movement. Each step is carefully controlled to distribute weight across padded paws, reducing impact on leaf litter, branches, and soil. Instead of abrupt motion, its body advances in measured transitions, adjusting stride length depending on surface stability and vegetation density. Flexibility in the spine and limbs enhances this controlled mobility. The elongated body allows smooth directional changes without sudden shifts in balance, while highly mobile joints support rapid adjustments when navigating uneven or elevated surfaces. This structural design reduces unnecessary collisions with vegetation that could produce noise or visual disturbance. Canopy movement introduces additional complexity. Branch networks vary in thickness, elasticity, and spacing, requiring constant assessment before each transfer of weight. The fossa evaluates these structures through subtle testing movements, ensuring stability before committing to full transfer. This reduces the likelihood of branch failure or sudden shifts that could compromise position. Auditory stealth is complemented by environmental awareness. The fossa responds to subtle cues such as rustling leaves, distant calls, and changes in ambient forest activity. These inputs help it determine prey location and movement direction without relying on direct visual confirmation alone. Integration of sensory information allows it to refine its path through dense vegetation. Prey species within these forests are highly sensitive to disturbance. Lemurs, birds, and small mammals often react quickly to irregular movement patterns or unusual environmental changes. Because of this, any unnecessary motion by a predator can reduce hunting success. The fossa's controlled locomotion reduces these risk signals, allowing it to approach within effective striking distance. Speed is not absent from its behavior, but it is carefully regulated. Acceleration occurs only when necessary, typically during the final phase of pursuit or capture. Until that point, movement remains moderated, balancing progress with concealment. This distinction between restrained travel and sudden engagement is a defining feature of its hunting strategy. Environmental complexity reinforces the importance of controlled movement. Fallen logs, tangled vines, and uneven ground surfaces create constant obstacles that require adjustment. Each of these elements can amplify sound if disturbed incorrectly. By coordinating limb placement and body positioning, the fossa reduces interaction with unstable surfaces that might produce unwanted auditory cues. Light conditions also influence movement strategy. Shifting canopy cover creates alternating zones of brightness and shadow, which can reveal or conceal motion depending on timing and angle of passage. The fossa often aligns its movement with these variations, using darker regions of the forest interior to reduce visual detection during travel. Competition within the ecosystem adds another layer of pressure. Other predators and scavengers may occupy overlapping territories, increasing the importance of avoiding unnecessary encounters. Reduced detectability supports both hunting efficiency and territorial stability, minimizing conflicts that could result in injury or energy loss. Over time, this movement style becomes reinforced through repeated success. Individuals that minimize disturbance are more likely to approach prey undetected, improving feeding efficiency and survival outcomes. This behavioral refinement is shaped by long-term interaction with both prey responses and environmental structure. Within Madagascar's layered forests, the fossa's method of movement represents a finely tuned balance between progress and concealment, allowing it to navigate complex terrain while maintaining a strategic advantage over species that rely on early detection for survival. Shaped by millions of years of evolution within Madagascar's fragmented forests, the fossa possesses a body plan that reflects constant adaptation to vertical and horizontal movement. Its structure is neither fully specialized for ground hunting nor exclusively designed for arboreal life, but instead integrates features that allow seamless transition between both environments. Elongation of the torso is one of its most distinctive anatomical traits. This extended body form provides exceptional flexibility, enabling the animal to twist and align itself with narrow branches, uneven surfaces, and dense vegetation. Such flexibility is especially important when navigating canopy pathways, where spacing between supports is irregular and unpredictable. Muscular limbs provide the power required for climbing, leaping, and sustained movement across complex terrain. The forelimbs and hind limbs work in coordinated sequence, distributing force efficiently during both ascent and descent. This coordination allows the fossa to maintain stability even on slanted or unstable surfaces, reducing energy loss during repeated movements through the forest. Semi-retractable claws enhance grip on bark and wood, functioning as anchoring tools during vertical travel. Unlike fully retractable systems seen in some felids, This configuration supports continuous engagement with surfaces, improving traction during both slow climbing and rapid movement. The claws are particularly effective on rough tree bark, where friction provides necessary stability. Ankle flexibility is another critical adaptation. The ability to rotate the hind feet allows controlled head-first descent along tree trunks, a movement pattern that expands access to different vertical levels of the forest. This capability is rare among mammals and provides a significant advantage when tracking prey that moves between canopy and ground layers. Balance is maintained through a long tail that acts as a dynamic stabilizer. During leaps or rapid directional changes, the tail adjusts position to counterbalance shifts in momentum. This reduces the risk of misalignment during mid-air movement and improves landing precision on narrow or unstable surfaces. Sensory systems are tuned to support navigation within visually complex environments. The forest interior presents constantly changing patterns of light and shadow, requiring rapid interpretation of depth, distance, and movement. Visual acuity supports this interpretation, while auditory and olfactory inputs provide additional context for locating prey or detecting environmental changes. Joint articulation throughout the body supports a wide range of motion. This flexibility is essential for transitioning between climbing, leaping, and ground movement without interruption. Each limb segment can adjust independently, allowing precise positioning in response to environmental variation. The skeletal structure supports both agility and strength without excessive weight. This balance is crucial in maintaining energy efficiency during long-distance travel across large territories. Reduced mass enhances climbing ability while still allowing sufficient force generation for capturing and subduing prey. Muscle distribution favors endurance and controlled bursts of power rather than sustained high-speed pursuit. This configuration aligns with its ecological role, where short explosive movements are often more effective than prolonged chases in dense forest environments. Respiratory and cardiovascular systems are adapted to support intermittent high activity followed by extended periods of lower exertion. This physiological rhythm matches the demands of arboreal hunting, where energy must be conserved between encounters with prey. Within Madagascar's forests, this anatomical combination enables the fossa to function as a fully integrated arboreal predator, capable of operating across multiple spatial layers while maintaining control, balance, and efficiency in environments defined by vertical complexity and structural density. Reproductive behavior in the fossa follows a seasonal cycle, with mating typically occurring during a limited period of the year when environmental conditions and prey availability support successful offspring development. During this time, otherwise solitary individuals briefly interact, guided by sense signals and vocalizations that increase in frequency compared to other phases of their life cycle. Chemical communication becomes especially important in locating potential mates. Scent markings deposited throughout forest territories carry information about reproductive readiness and individual presence. These signals reduce the need for prolonged direct contact, allowing individuals to coordinate mating encounters across large, densely vegetated areas where visibility is limited. Following successful mating, females enter a gestation period lasting several weeks. During this stage, energy demands increase as internal development of embryos progresses. The female seeks out sheltered nesting sites that offer protection from environmental disturbance and potential predators. tree hollows, dense vegetation clusters, or concealed ground-level refuges may be selected depending on habitat structure and availability. Birth occurs in isolated and secure locations within the forest. Litters are relatively small, reflecting the energetic investment required for raising highly dependent offspring in a complex environment. Newborn fossas are born blind, deaf, and completely reliant on maternal care for survival. At this stage, vulnerability is extremely high, and protection from external threats is essential. Early development is marked by gradual sensory and physical maturation. Eyes open after an initial period of blindness, followed by progressive improvement in coordination and motor control. The mother provides nourishment through milk and remains close to the den site, limiting movement during early weeks to ensure constant access to the young. As juveniles grow, exploratory behavior begins within the safety of the nesting area. Initial movements are uncoordinated, but over time they develop greater control over limbs and balance. This phase is critical for building foundational skills required for climbing, jumping, and navigating uneven terrain. Learning occurs primarily through observation and direct interaction with the environment under maternal supervision. Young fossas begin practicing short climbs and controlled movements along nearby structures, gradually building confidence in vertical mobility. These early experiences form the basis for later independent survival in forest environments. Weaning takes place as juveniles transition from milk dependence to solid food. The mother introduces small prey items, allowing offspring to practice handling and consumption techniques. This stage is essential for developing hunting-related motor skills and coordination necessary for capturing live prey in later life. Mortality rates during early development can be influenced by environmental conditions and resource availability. Changes in the habitat stability or prey density may affect the mother's ability to provide sufficient nourishment, making early life a critical period for population maintenance. As juveniles mature, they begin to accompany the mother on more extensive movements within the forest. These excursions expose them to broader environmental conditions, including canopy structure, prey behavior, and spatial navigation challenges. Gradually, dependence decreases as independent exploration increases. Eventually, young fossas disperse from their natal range to establish their own territories. This dispersal reduces competition with related individuals and supports genetic distribution across forest landscapes. Each new territory must be identified, secured, and maintained through individual effort. Within Madagascar's forests, early life stages of the fossa represent a transition from dependence to independence, shaped by environmental complexity and the demands of a multi-layered habitat where survival skills must be developed through progressive exposure and repeated interaction with the surrounding ecosystem. Across Madagascar's remaining forest corridors, the expansion of human activity has increasingly reshaped the landscape that the fossa depends on for survival. Agricultural development, logging operations, and settlement growth have progressively reduced continuous forest cover, fragmenting once connected habitats into isolated patches separated by roads, fields, and degraded land. Forest fragmentation has direct consequences for a species that relies on large territorial ranges. The fossa depends on extensive connected habitats to locate sufficient prey and maintain stable movement routes. When forests are divided into smaller sections, individuals are forced to navigate between patches of suitable habitat increasing exposure to open areas and reducing hunting efficiency. Agricultural expansion often replaces native vegetation with monoculture crops or grazing land. These modified environments lack the structural complexity required to support diverse prey populations such as lemurs, birds, and small vertebrates. As prey diversity declines in these transformed landscapes, predator populations face reduced food availability, forcing adjustments in territory size and movement patterns. Logging activities further alter forest structure by removing mature trees and disrupting canopy continuity. Since the fossa relies on both ground and arboreal pathways, breaks in canopy cover limit its ability to move efficiently through elevated forest layers. This restriction can reduce access to arboreal prey and increase reliance on ground-level hunting, altering energy expenditure patterns. Road construction introduces additional fragmentation effects by creating physical barriers across natural habitats. While fossas are capable of crossing open ground, these areas increase vulnerability to human interaction and potential mortality risks. Roads also facilitate further human access into previously remote forest regions, amplifying ecological disturbance over time. Population isolation becomes a significant consequence of fragmented landscapes. When forest patches become separated, movement between populations decreases, reducing gene flow across the species range. Over time, this isolation can lead to reduced genetic diversity, which may affect resilience to disease, environmental change, and long-term population stability. Human-wildlife interactions occasionally increase in areas where forest edges meet agricultural land. In such regions, fossas may encounter domestic animals, which can lead to conflict with the local communities. These interactions are often driven by habitat loss rather than behavioral change, as shrinking natural prey bases force broader foraging patterns. Conservation efforts in Madagascar focus on maintaining and restoring forest connectivity. Protected areas and ecological corridors are designed to link fragmented habitats, allowing movement between isolated populations. These corridors are essential for sustaining genetic exchange and supporting long-term ecological stability. Research initiatives also contribute to understanding fossa behavior in human-affected landscapes. Tracking studies using GPS collars and field observation help map movement patterns, territorial ranges, and habitat use. This information is used to identify critical regions that require protection or restoration. Despite increasing pressure, the fossa demonstrates a degree of adaptability in altered environments. It can adjust its territorial range, shift hunting strategies, and utilize remaining forest patches when necessary. However, this adaptability has limits, particularly when habitat loss reaches levels that prevent sufficient prey availability or safe movement between regions. Edge habitats, where forest meets cleared land, often present mixed conditions. While some prey species may persist in these transitional zones, structural complexity is reduced and hunting efficiency may decline. These areas also increase exposure to human presence, further influencing behavioral patterns. Long-term survival of the species is closely linked to the integrity of Madagascar's forest ecosystems. Continuous habitat loss reduces not only individual survival chances, but also the stability of broader ecological networks that depend on predator-prey balance. Within this context, the fossa represents both a resilient predator and a species sensitive to environmental disruption. Its presence across Madagascar's forests is increasingly shaped by the intersection of natural ecological dynamics and expanding human influence, where landscape change directly affects the structure and function of its survival strategies. Within the layered forests of Madagascar, where ecological relationships have developed in long isolation, the fossa occupies a position that influences far more than its immediate hunting interactions. As the largest native carnivorous mammal on the island, it shapes population dynamics among a wide range of species, particularly lemurs, small vertebrates, and ground-dwelling birds. Its role extends beyond individual predation events into broader regulation of ecosystem structure. Across intact forest systems, predator presence affects how prey species distribute themselves spatially and behaviorally. Lemurs, for example, adjust movement routes, feeding locations, and group cohesion in response to perceived predation risk. These adjustments influence how energy is allocated throughout the day, altering patterns of foraging and rest. In regions where fossas remain active, such behavioral shifts become part of the underlying structure of forest life. Population regulation occurs through repeated interactions rather than isolated events. Each successful hunt contributes incrementally to controlling prey density, preventing overpopulation of certain species that could otherwise place pressure on vegetation resources. This indirect effect links predator behavior to plant regeneration cycles, demonstrating how a single carnivore can influence multiple ecological layers. Forest structure itself is partially shaped by these cascading relationships. When herbivorous and frugivorous species are kept within balanced population ranges, seed dispersal patterns and vegetation growth remain relatively stable. In this way, the fossa contributes indirectly to maintaining plant diversity and forest regeneration dynamics across different habitat types. The absence or decline of a top predator can lead to measurable ecological shifts. Without consistent predation pressure, certain prey populations may increase beyond sustainable levels, leading to overconsumption of plant material and changes in forest composition. Such imbalances can gradually alter habitat structure, affecting a wide range of organisms beyond the immediate predator-prey relationship. Within Madagascar's ecosystems, the fossa's influence is distributed across both space and time. It does not operate as a constant force in a single location, but moves across territories, creating a patchwork of predation pressure that varies with habitat quality, prey availability, and seasonal environmental changes. This variability contributes to dynamic ecological equilibrium rather than static balance. Despite its ecological importance, the fossa remains one of the least frequently observed apex predators in its range. Its elusive behavior, low population density, and preference for dense forest interiors make direct observation rare. Much of what is known about its ecological role is derived from indirect evidence such as prey behavior, tracking data, and habitat analysis. Even when not directly visible, its presence is registered through ecological responses. Prey distribution patterns, changes in group movement behavior, and shifts in habitat use all reflect underlying predation pressure. These indirect indicators reveal the extent of its influence across forest systems, even in areas where individual animals are seldom encountered. Seasonal variation further shapes its ecological role. During periods of higher rainfall, prey dispersal increases, reducing encounter rates. As dry conditions develop and water becomes more concentrated in specific areas, prey density increases locally, intensifying predator-prey interactions. The fossa's movement patterns often align with these seasonal shifts, reinforcing its role as a responsive regulator within the ecosystem. In fragmented landscapes, its ecological function becomes more uneven. Isolated forest patches may experience reduced predation pressure, while other areas retain stronger predator presence. This uneven distribution can lead to localized ecological differences, affecting vegetation growth, prey behavior, and species composition across the island. Human-driven habitat change continues to reshape how this apex role is expressed. As forests become increasingly fragmented, the spatial continuity of ecological interactions is disrupted. Predator-prey relationships that once operated across broad connected landscapes are now constrained within smaller, separated regions. Despite these changes, the fossa continues to function as an ecological stabilizer wherever viable habitat remains. Its interactions with prey species still influence population regulation, even in altered environments, though the scale and consistency of these effects vary depending on habitat condition. In more intact forests, predation patterns remain relatively stable, supporting predictable ecological feedback loops between predator and prey. In contrast, fragmented or degraded landscapes often disrupt these relationships, leading to uneven distribution of both predator presence and prey availability. Even so, where forest structure is sufficiently preserved, the fossa retains its ability to shape local ecological dynamics through repeated movement, hunting behavior, and spatial use of remaining connected habitats. From an ecological perspective, its role is not defined solely by strength or dominance, but by integration into a complex network of biological relationships. Each interaction contributes to maintaining structural balance within forest systems that have evolved over millions of years in isolation. This integration spans multiple trophic levels, linking predator activity to prey population dynamics, vegetation regeneration, and overall habitat stability. Rather than acting as a singular controlling force, the fossa functions as one interconnected node within a broader ecological web, where changes in its behavior can influence cascading effects throughout the system. These relationships have been refined through long-term evolutionary separation, producing an ecosystem where balance emerges from repeated interactions among specialized species adapted to Madagascar's unique environmental conditions. Within Madagascar's forests, this predator represents a convergence point of evolutionary history, ecological regulation, and environmental sensitivity. Its presence reflects the long-term stability of interactions between species that have never coexisted with mainland carnivores, creating a unique ecological framework shaped entirely within the island's boundaries. Over millions of years, isolation allowed these relationships to refine without external influence, producing tightly linked dependencies between predator, prey, and habitat. Each interaction contributes to maintaining balance across forest layers, from canopy movement patterns to ground-level foraging cycles. In this system, the fossa serves not only as an active hunter, but also as a stabilizing force embedded within a self-contained, evolutionary landscape that continues to respond to both natural variation and increasing environmental change. As environmental pressures continue to reshape forest landscapes, the persistence of this apex predator becomes increasingly tied to the continuity of ecological networks that support both prey diversity and habitat integrity. Fragmentation of forest corridors reduces movement opportunities between populations, while declining prey abundance places additional constraints on energy balance and territorial stability. In response, the species must navigate increasingly isolated habitat patches where survival depends on maintaining access to viable hunting grounds and sufficient cover. These conditions intensify the importance of intact ecosystems, where interconnected vegetation, stable prey populations, and uninterrupted forest structure collectively sustain the long-term viability of this highly specialized carnivore across Madagascar's evolving landscapes. Across these systems, the fossa stands as a key component in maintaining the underlying structure of Madagascar's biodiversity, operating through continuous interaction, spatial movement, and long-term influence on ecological relationships that define the balance of one of the world's most distinctive island ecosystems. Its presence shapes how prey species distribute themselves, how vegetation regenerates through seed dispersal networks, and how energy flows between trophic levels across fragmented and intact habitats alike. Even in areas where it is rarely observed directly, its ecological impact persists through the behavioral responses it triggers in other species. As forests shift under natural variation and human pressure, the fossa remains embedded within these changing dynamics, reflecting both the resilience and vulnerability of Madagascar's interconnected biological systems over time. As our journey through the Madagascar forest comes to a close, picture the fossa disappearing into deep green shadow, the jungle settling back into stillness. There is a quiet strength in this hidden world, focused, patient, and completely at ease within silence. Let the gentle sensations of peace and calmness settle through your body and mind. Feel your thoughts slow, your breathing deepen, and your body rest fully. If you enjoyed this relaxing moment, please consider liking, subscribing, or sharing your thoughts below. You can also turn on the notification so you don't miss any of our future journeys together. But for now, let your body relax, release all tension, and allow your mind to drift gently into rest. Good night and sleep well.